Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back here with another video, and today I decided to bring this complete registration, sign up, login, and authentication tutorial for you guys, where I'm going to be using a service called Stytch to facilitate creating this really simple but also very secure authentication and sign up system. If you want to check out the code for all of this will be in the description, together with the link to Stytch and its website, everything else that you might need for this video. Before we get into the video, I'm going to go over what we're building and kind of demo exactly how the project will look like at the end. Now, obviously, as per most of my tutorials, if it is mainly based on some sort of like logic or some sort of thing that doesn't require UI, then I'm not going to spend any time doing CSS and UI stuff, and that's why it looks kind of ugly, because the focus of this project is to just focus on authentication, login, and sign up. So that's the main purpose of this. So keeping that in mind, this is how it will look. So first of all, we have here a sign up page, right? Where you can actually write an email and a password to create an account. We also have a login page, which is meant for those who already have an account. Now for signing up, let's create over here an account. I'm going to put an email and a password. Now for the password, I kept the field for password to be just text, just because so you guys can see what I'm typing. And I'm going to type here a simple password, right? Password 123. Actually, I'm just going to write password to show you guys one thing. Now, if I try to sign up with this password, it won't actually allow me to, because the way we build this has some sort of password strength detection, where it tells us information such as the one over here, where if this is a valid password or not, or if this is a breach password or not. It also provides us with really nice suggestions and feedback, such as suggestions saying to add another word or two, maybe add uncommon words. And it also gives us a warning saying that the password we try to create an account with is a top 10 common password. Then this is really cool. Now, we can't sign up. The account hasn't been created unless we actually put a correct password. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to, make a password that is good. I'm going to say PETW@345 hashtag. This looks like a good password. And if it is something like this and I click on sign up, you'll see that now it says that the breached password field is false and that it is a valid password, meaning that we actually created an account in this project. Now, I didn't create any visual representation for seeing if we actually logged in or not to an account. However, when you sign up for an account and it's successful, what happens is it will automatically log you in. And the way we check to see if a user is logged in or not is by coming to the application tab over here, and you'll see that there will be a new entry on the local storage called this thing over here, right? This thing. And you'll see that if it is logged in, it will have a bunch of information related to the session of the user logged in as part of its value. Now, all of this will be more deeply explained after the demo when I go over this and actually write the code, but it shows to you that we actually logged into the account. Now, if I want to log out, I can easily just click on the logout button over here, and you'll see that the session is removed and the user is set to null again. I can log in without creating an account by using the same email, like this, and the same password, just like this. And you'll see that now it logged in again to the correct user, as you can see over here. Now, what if we don't know our password, right? What if we don't know this? Well, we also set up a reset password functionality. So as you can see, we are logged out, but when I click on this button, it will actually send an email to the email account that I registered over here, which is this one over here. You'll see that I got the email. I can click on this and then click on reset password, and it will redirect me back to a page where I can just enter my new password, and I'll do something like new, actually I won't write password, I'll just write PedroTech at #4, something like this. It looks like a good password, right? So I'm just going to copy this to keep that in mind. Click on reset password. Now I'm actually already logged in, because when you click on reset password, it logs you in. You'll see by the application that the user is logged in. But if I click log out, you'll see the user is null, meaning we logged out, and try to log in with the new password. So I'm going to say pedro@pedrotech.co and put the new password. It will now work and log in as expected. So this is basically it for what we're building. I know it's a very long demo that I just demoed to you guys, but I really wanted to give you guys the idea of what we're going to build. We're going to indeed be using Stytch, like I mentioned, and Stytch is a service that is sponsoring this video, but it's also a service that I've mentioned in the past. I've used it in the past, and I definitely recommend to everyone. Keep in mind that Stytch is free. So you are able to do all of this without paying anything. Now, if you're going to have a lot of users, then it becomes a paid service. But the main purpose of all of this, in my opinion, is that if you're going to build a simple project, maybe you can get away with building something that is not as secure and building all of this on your own. But if you're building a product for real customers that are going to need a password and need a secure way to enter on the website, I would recommend using a service like this, because it does take away a lot of your headaches trying to set up a very good and secure sign up and authentication system. So just giving it to them and investing some sort of money into a product like this could work out for you, and has my recommendation if you would ask me. So with that in mind, let's get into the tutorial. Okay everyone, so now we're going to start the tutorial, and I'm starting the tutorial from a template code that I already set up. The reason for this is because the main focus of the tutorial, as mentioned, is setting up all of the logic behind the authentication flow, and not setting up basic stuff like routes and simple buttons inside of the application. So I'm just going to go over real quick how the code looks right now. But if you just want to use the initial code, check out the link in the description with the initial code. I'm going to include both the initial code and the final code depending on what you're interested in. So the initial code starts with the app.js, and we set up with a couple routes. Basically, we use React Router DOM, as you can see, and we set up a route for signup, and it renders a component called signup. A route for authentication, and it or renders a component called login, which can also be called auth depending on what you want to do. And then we set up a route for the reset password functionality. Now this is a little bit different because at the end you see I put a wildcard over here. I'll explain that in a bit when we get to that part, but for now just know that we have 3 routes in our application, and this is how we define it. Also, we have a simple logout button, and we also have the links at the top. You'll see that in our app, we can see this. If we actually go to the application, we just, no matter what route we are in, you see I'm in the auth route, it will always show the logout button and these 2 links at the top, because they're actually outside of our route's definition. So if I switch to the sign up page, for example, both the logout button and the links are still over here. The only thing that changes are the stuff that are inside of the routes wrapper over here. So this is basically it for the app.js file. Now we have 3 other pages, as you can see, and 3 other components. For the login component, we have a very simple structure over here. I haven't implemented any states or any logical stuff yet. I'll do all of that with you guys. But you can see we have 2 inputs, one for email and password, 1 button for logging in, and then the whole UI for if you forgot your password or not. So it basically represents this page over here. Now for sign up, it's very similar. The only difference is it doesn't have this part at the bottom, but it is very similar. As you can see, it looks fine as well. Now the reset password, again, it's more for later on in the video, but it's also very simple. Just has an input for the new password and a button to reset the password. And now that we've gone over all of the initial code, let's start setting up Stytch inside of our application so that we can actually create the authentication system. So the first thing we really need is to be able to use our Stytch account. So you have to go to stytch.com and create an account with the website. Again, it is completely free to create an account. It is completely free to start a new project. You see, I already have an account over here, so I'm not going to create a new one. And I already have a project. You'll see that if you go there, you can click on create project, and it will create your first project. You can see over here, you can go to create new project. I already have one. I called it my first project. But basically, this is how you would do something like this. You would just create the project and you should see a dashboard such as this one over here. Now, this dashboard allows you to manage everything related to your Stytch implementation. So for example, if we have a bunch of users in our website, we can go to the user management section of the website, and it will allow us to see a list of all the users that are registered in our website. Obviously, for now, there's none because I haven't added any yet, and we haven't implemented the functionality to create them in our website yet. But as we do, it will appear over here. There's also a bunch of other customizations you can actually create. That email that I got over there when I showed you guys the reset password thing can actually be changed, right? You can change it by using something like this. And there's a bunch of other stuff you can do as well. But there is some configuration that we indeed need to set. So the first configuration that we need is to be able to set up our SDK configuration. So we first create a domain that will be authorized by Stytch. Since Stytch is pretty secure, your project can only be accessed by domains that are specified inside of your own project. So right now we're running everything in our localhost, as you can see. So we're going to say that the domain that we accept is the domain for localhost. And if we don't do that, then Stytch won't allow our localhost to make a request to Stytch, because then if we just allowed everyone to make requests, it would be completely not secure. So we have to do it this way. I'm going to delete this just to show you guys what you have to do. You just go to domains, click on add domain, and literally just add your domain. Or if you're publishing a website, you just put over here the domain for your website. I'm going to click add, and as you can see, this is how it should look. Also, we're going to come down here at the bottom, and what we're going to be going over in this video is the password SDK. So you're going to click over here on passwords, and you're going to turn it on, right? It was on. I just turned it off just to show you guys, but you're going to click on turn it on, and you'll see that it gives you a lot of info on what exactly this SDK does, but you don't have to read that because I'm going to explain in a bit. It is what is going to allow us and enable us to create what I showed you in the beginning of the video. Also, we have to set up something known as a redirect URL. So this is more important for later on in the video when we start dealing with the reset password functionality. But basically over here, I already have it set up, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it as well. Basically, when we go to the email, right, when you try to reset a password, it's going to send you an email, and then you're going to click on a button, and then it's going to redirect you back to your website. So to have that flow, right, you have to specify to Stytch what is the link that you want to redirect, because if you don't, Stytch is not just going to redirect to a random website, because that's just not secure. So you do have to specify by putting in over here your domain and the route that you're going to send them back to. So the route that you want Stytch to redirect after an email. And then you choose the type. In this case, it is a reset password type because that's the functionality that we're trying to implement. And I'm just going to click on confirm to add it to our redirect URLs. You have to do this or else your reset password functionality later on in the video won't work. Also, if you want to see all your API keys and project keys, you can see all of this over here. We are going to need this thing over here, which is our public token, in order to fully configure it inside of our project. So make sure you copy this by just clicking it or copying it directly. So now that we have this token, let's get into our Visual Studio Code and start implementing Stytch. So to do that, we're going to have to install a couple packages inside of our application. So I'm going to open up the terminal over here. I'm going to Control K, and I'm going to just yarn add two packages in specific. So the first package is the Stytch React package. So add Stytch/React, just like this. And the second one is the Vanilla.js Stytch library. So I'm going to say add Stytch/Vanilla.js, just like this. Now I'm pressing enter, and it will start adding all of the packages inside of our project, but we can already start using them because they install pretty quickly. Over here at the top, we're going to import from one of those packages. More specifically, we're going to import from the at Stytch/Vanilla.js, and we're going to import something called the Stytch headless client. So this specifically, we do it by putting a /headless at the end and importing the Stytch headless client. And this is a class that is used in order to instantiate our new application. We use this one specifically because it allows us to have all the functionality that we need without any of the extra UI stuff, making it a very a smaller package size, as you can see over here. So that's the reason why we're using this one instead of another one which you might see in the documentation. Both of them will work the same way, and I think this one is better for our use case. And what we do with it is we come over here at the bottom, we say const Stytch client, just like this, and we set it equal to new Stytch headless client. Now inside of here, what we're going to put is the token that we copied over here. So I'm going to copy it, paste it over here. And obviously, if you want to make this even more secure, if you're going to publish this, you can make this into an environment variable inside of your application and then tell, I don't know, GitHub to ignore that file. Since it's for video purposes, I'm just going to show you guys this is my token, but you're just going to put it directly over here. And we now have a connection to our project using the Stytch client variable over here. Now, what exactly will this variable allow us to do? Well, basically everything. More specifically, in our app.js, it's going to allow us to tell Stytch where in our app we want to have access to Stytch related stuff. So this is very common with a lot of libraries out there. You can have a provider to specify which components should be wrapped around and used to make requests to whatever library you're using. In this case, we're going to import over here at the top by saying import. We're going to import from @Stytch/React. And what we're going to import is the Stytch provider, just like this. And the provider, as always, is just a component that we're going to actually put around the routes over here. And it will wrap around all the components which we want to make requests to Stytch. So basically all of those over here. And inside of here, we just have to pass a single prop called Stytch. And what we put inside of it is the Stytch client that we just created, just like this. And now whatever is inside of here is now connected to the project that we created in the website with the token equal to the one we specified over here. So now we finally created a connection. So what do we do now? Well, I want to start out by creating the functionality to signing up for as a user. So we're going to come to the sign up component over here, which right now is pretty empty, but will be filled with a bunch of information pretty soon. So in the sign up, what we really want to start doing is being able to have access to what the user is typing in both of these inputs, right? So when a user comes over here into their React app and they go to the sign up component, they start typing on this, we want to grab whatever the user typed on the input to then later on use it with something, right? In our case, we'll use it to send it to Stytch. So how do we do that? Well, as always, if you're familiar with React, you know you can do this by using a state. So we're going to create two states in our application right over here that are going to represent the one for the email and one for the password. So I'm going to create over here email, set email, and we'll do the same thing for password, just like this, password, and I'll make this lowercase and then set password. Now, what we do is we have to tell the input to whenever there's a change in it, we want to, first of all, grab the event of the input and set the whatever field this represents. In this case, it's the email field. So we're going to set the email to be equal to the event.target.value. Now, this is expected for you to know, if you're watching this tutorial, because it is pretty basic React. But all we're doing is just changing the value of the state to be equal to whatever the input, whatever the value of the input is. We'll do the exact same thing for the password as well. So we're going to set password to be the same, just like this. And what we do now is we now have access to both of them. So we really want to already start creating the functionality for using those to sign up as a user. So we're going to create a function called signup, just like this. And we're going to pass it as an on click to the button, just like this. And what we put over here is pretty simple. There's two parts to our signup process. The first one is to be able to check to see if the password that we inputted to actually create a user is strong enough. The second one is to actually create the user, right? So we want to check first to see if the password is strong enough. If not, then we'll not create the user. If it is, then it will pass through and it will create the user with that specific email and password combination. So let's start off with the password checking. And to start using any kind of thing related to Stytch in this specific component, we have to access the Stytch client. But how do we access the Stytch client if the Stytch client is on the app component? Well, there's a bunch of different ways you can do this, but the most obvious and easiest way is to actually use a hook created by Stytch, which is pretty simple. It's called the use Stytch hook. And we'll do that by importing at the top over here from @Stytch/React. And we'll just import the use Stytch hook. This hook is very simple. All you do is you just say Stytch client and then set it equal to use Stytch, just like this. Now we'll grab the Stytch client over here, and for password checking, all we have to do is say Stytch client dot passwords. Actually, for everything related to the passwords SDK, which is what we actually talked about over here, this is the passwords. It has a bunch of methods, right? So whenever you want to use one of those, you have to say Stytch client dot passwords. And in our case, we want to use the strength check method. And this method is really cool because what you do is you pass in an object with two fields, an email and a password, just like this, right? And we have both of them. We're passing in whatever the user typed in the input. So we're passing this as part of the strength check. And then it will get those two pieces of information and check to see if it was either a success on a dot then, or I'm going to put a dot catch to see if it was an error. And it will look a little bit better this way. But yeah, we're first checking to see if the password is strong enough. If it is, then it will go to the dot then. If it's not, it will go to the dot catch. Now, what I'm going to do to the both of them for now is I'll just console log a message, either, for example, success, something like this, or for an error, we can actually console log something more informative, such as what exactly was the error. I'm going to put error and then put over here the error message. So now actually let's just check to see if this is working, if it's actually successfully checking the strength of the password or not. So the way we check it is actually, I forgot, I have to just add over here the response from this check. Because what happens is it will catch on the dot then if it doesn't pass or if it passes. It doesn't matter. It will catch over here. The dot catch is actually for if there's an error in the API request, not in the case where the password isn't strong enough. So we do need to see the response from this to check if it is strong enough or not. So let's put that and try to use try to create an account. So first of all, I'm going to put something that isn't an email, just so you guys can see something, and put a good password. I'm going to create a password that probably is good. I'm not sure what their strength checking mechanism is, but basically this looks like a password that is hard to break, right? I'm going to click on sign up. Right off the bat, you see it doesn't work because it says that it is an invalid email, because Stytch knows that this is not an email and it will immediately prohibit you from creating an account like this. So I'm going to put an email that actually exists, right? The one I'm using as an example for this video. And let's try to sign up right now. Well, it will say success because the API request worked, but it will also say that it is a valid password, meaning that if I were to already be creating the user, it would actually allow you to create the user. When I say if I were to be already creating the user, is because it didn't actually create the user when I clicked sign up because we haven't added the functionality yet. But the important thing is to know that this is a good password. You see, it's not a breached password. It is a valid password, but let's try to put something like password, right? This is not a good password to put in any website. Well, Stytch will let us know that although it was a successful API request, it is a breached password and not a valid password. It can give you the amount of feedbacks. You can see over here, it's telling us to add another word or two. And as I showed in the beginning of the video, this password is one of the top common passwords in the world. So it just tells you not to use it, and you should probably not use it if this is the case, right? So basically, it's just checking for the strength. And you can use this information really easily to display in your screen, right? You can grab it directly from here, from the response, if there's any error messages, and just add them over here as a label or something like this for the user to know what the issue with their password is. Now, let's add the functionality for creating the user when they have a strong password. Well, it's very simple. All we do is over here, after all of this, we just come and say Stytch client dot passwords again, then say .create. And the .create method is pretty simple. All you do is you pass over here an object, and this object will contain three things. First, an email, and we already have the email, which is the email state that we created over here. Now a password, we already have a password again. And finally, what we need is session duration in minutes. This is very easy as well to understand. All it means is how long will the user be logged in for. So when you create a password, when you sign up a user, it actually also logs in the user in the browser. So the user will be logged in after creation. So we need to specify how long do you want in minutes for the user session to last. Let's say 1 hour by putting 60 minutes. It looks like a good amount of time, right? So let's go back over here and let's try to create this user again by clicking on the signing up with a password, right? So it will again say that this is a breached password because it is the bad password. And you can see that it actually didn't create the user. It still didn't create the user. But if we change this back to the good password, which we created previously, you'll see that now it isn't a breached password, right? It is a valid password. It also created the user in our user management. You see over here, now it has a new user, says when it was created, the email used, and everything else. And also, if we go over here to our browser where we logged in, we go to application, you'll see that now in our local storage, there will be these two things over here, more specifically this one, which will specify the session of the user that is logged in and the user that is logged in as well. So now we finally have the ability to log in and sign up to the website. Now, that doesn't mean that the login component is already done, because it is not, right? Signing up is for one-time users, like first-time users. But logging in is for returning users who wants to authenticate themselves, right? So what we want to do now is, first of all, be able to log out because I'm logged in. And to show you guys how to create the login functionality, I need to log out, right? Because I can't log in if I'm already logged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come to our app.js, which is over here. And let's add the functionality to log out by just creating a function called logout. So const logout. And it's just a simple function. This is actually one of the fastest parts of the tutorial. All we have to do here is literally to say Stytch client, which we grabbed directly from the original Stytch client that we created. Then say .session to specify that we were talking about the current session of the user logged in. And we just say .revoke. Revoke will just stop the session and end it completely. So this is just a function that we pass into the logout. When we say on click logout, we just pass in the function, and you'll see that now, if we open up the application over here, no matter where we are in the app, this should be deleted, right? This information should become null if I click on the logout button, which is exactly what happens. So we're now officially logged out, but the user is still here. Hasn't been deleted or anything. The user is still here. We're just not logged in as them. So now let's go to the login page and let's start adding the functionality for logging. So for logging in, we're going to come to the login code over here, and it starts out pretty modest. We're gonna just use a couple stuff that we used in the signup as well. For example, we're gonna need two states as well, one called email and another called password. It's very similar to the signup. We also need to import at the top the use state hook. The reason why we have both of them is because we also have two different fields called email and password in the login component, or the login page. And inside of here, what we also want to do is we also want to use the use Stytch hook to grab the Stytch client. So I'm going to say Stytch client equal to use Stytch hook, and it will automatically import at the top, as you can see over here. Now, what I want to do is I want to create a function called login. So const login, just like this. And also, I just remembered we need to change the values of this state to be whatever it's typed on the input. So I'm going to come to sign up over here, and I'm going to grab as well the on change for the input, just paste it over here. Do the same thing with the input for password, but change this to set password, just like we did on the last one. And now we have a little bit more set up for our login component. Now for the login, it's also pretty simple. What we have to do is we just have to come over here, grab the Stytch client, say .passwords, just like before. But instead of creating an account, we're gonna authenticate a user, right? We're just passing in an object over here. And this object contains same things as what we put for the create, an email, a password, and a session duration. Because it's the same thing. The only difference is with this function, it creates and logs in, and this one only logs in or authenticates, right? So we're gonna create this one over here and just pass in the login button or the login function as an on-click to the login button. You'll see that as easy as it was, it still works out. I'm gonna come over here and I'm going to put the email. So PedroTech.co, and what was the password? I think it was like good pass at 123 hashtag. Was it that? I think so, right? No, it wasn't. Was the hashtag before? Yeah, the hashtag was before. So this was the password. You saw that when I failed to put the correct password, it gave us unauthorized credentials. But then I changed it and it successfully logged us in as a user. So you can see it is working, right? And we set up the login and the sign up really quickly. I don't think it's even that long of the video so far. It was really quick. But what we still have to do is probably one of the most interesting parts of this whole tutorial, in my opinion, is resetting everything or resetting your password if you forgot your password by using your email. So I'm logging out. I just logged out and I'm going to add the functionality to reset the password. But the reset password functionality starts with the login component because it is over here where we have the button for in case you forgot your password. So over here, we're going to create a function called, let's call it reset password by email, just like this. And this function will be simple, right? It will again use the Stytch client and again the passwords property of it. But then we're going to call the reset by email start. Now, the reason why we say start is because there's two different functions that we're going to be using. One is called the reset by email start, and the other one is called the reset by email. The reset by email start, it has the purpose of whenever you call it, it will send you an email to the email that you specify inside of here. So we're going to pass in an email over here, which obviously should be the email that you're trying to log in with. So for now, let me just hard code it. And I'm going to put pedro@pedrotech.co. I would recommend if you're like using over here to test it out, the email that you created your Stytch account with, because if you want to test something like this with an email that isn't the one you used to create an account, you have to add your credit card to Stytch. Now, it is completely secure and it's free. Again, it's completely free. Like it won't charge you or anything unless you use their quota or surpass the amount of users that you can have for free. But I know a lot of you guys don't want to put credit cards on websites. Although this website is 100% secure, if you don't want to do that, I would put your own email over here because then you don't have to do that. And by your own email, I mean the email you use to create your Stytch account. So I'm just hard coding the email that I used to create my Stytch account called pedro@pedrotech.co. And this function will just send an email to this specific email. So we're going to come over here at the bottom to the reset button or reset password button, and we're adding the on click to it, just like this. Now it should all be fine. Yeah, it should be fine. We can test this out, but the thing is, when you get the email, I'm going to show you guys what happens. When you get the email, I'm going to click on the button right now. It will actually come over here. And I just have to wait for me to receive the email. Let me refresh this. Yeah, I received the email. When you get this, you'll click on this and it will redirect you to a specific page. Now, the process is not done yet because we haven't set up the reset password component. And where we are right now is inside of the reset password route. If you recall, when we were setting up Stytch, we did add the redirect or URL, and I mentioned that we added this one for the reset password. So right now we're not inside of the login component anymore on this one over here. We're not inside of the login component anymore. We're actually inside of the reset password. And if you recall, in the reset password, when we were defining a route, I mentioned that we added the wildcard. The reason why we added the wildcard is because the way Stytch works is it will redirect you to whatever URL you put, and then we'll put a bunch of query parameters over here that you need to use to determine what user you're changing the password for. So that's why I added that. And in order to test out if this works, we have to finish up the reset password component. So we're coming over here, and I just showed you because this actually will help you understand what we're going to do in this component. So over here, we need to start out by the same way we started before. On the other components, we have to be able to grab the value of the input for the new password. So when you want to reset your password, you're going to type the new password you want to change it to, and we need to grab that information by creating a state. So I'm setting this equal to use state, and the state we're creating is going to be called new password and set new password, just like this. Now we're grabbing the onChange over here, and the onChange will have an event, and we'll just set new password to event.target.value, just like this. So now that we have access to the value of the input, we have to again get the Stytch client. So I'm going to say const Stytch client equal to use Stytch. And over here, we're going to create the function for resetting the password. This function, again, will be called down here at the bottom as an onClick for the reset password button. So we're going to say onClick and pass the reset password. And over here in this function, we want to call the Stytch client and say .passwords. And now instead of calling the reset by email start, we're going to call the reset by email. And the reset by email, similar to the other one, it will include some stuff, but differently from the other one, it will include different fields. The first one that is different is we need to add a token over here. Now, what exactly is this token? Well, it's not the token that you put over here. This is not what it's talking about. It's actually talking about the token that is specified when you redirect from your email. So this token over here. Well, there's a bunch of different methods to do this. You can use React Router DOM and use the search params hook to grab that. On the documentation, Stytch actually recommends just doing this, which is creating a variable called token, setting it equal to a new URL search params, and then passing in the window.location.search like this, and then specifying at the end a .get and specifying the name of the param you want to get. So it's called token, as you can see right over here. I hope you can see this. It's called token. So we're just going to put token over here, and this will grab that and put directly inside of the token variable. And then we just have to pass this over here, which obviously will just shorten to be 1, like this, because JavaScript allows you to do that. And then over here at the bottom, we'll pass in a password, and the password will be the new password that we want to change the old one to, right? So we pass the token, the new password. And again, when you reset your password by email, it will actually log you in again, right? It will automatically log you in. So you have to specify the session of your login. We're going to put 60 minutes again. So now with all of this, it should actually be working for changing your password. Let's check it out by going to the login over here. We'll log in as, actually, we'll try logging in first just to show you guys that everything is working. So right now the user is null. We're going to log in with Pedro at PedroTech.co. We're going to put in a password over here. If I remember, it is good pass at #123, and then log in. You'll see it worked. It officially logged in. And now let's log out and reset the password. So I should be getting an email right over now. I just got it. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on reset password. It gets us to this page. I'm going to put in a new password. Let's call this PedroTech at 90 #money sign, something like this, right? and click on reset password, but I'm going to show you guys that I'm not logged in. When I click on reset password, it will log us in if it worked. It didn't work. It says that it is not a strong password. I think it's because my name is in it. And that's actually, I don't know if it's that, but I'm pretty sure it might be something like this, because you shouldn't have your name in your password. So I'm actually going to change this to not my name. I'm going to call this Chris, Chris Tech, and try to reset the password. And I guess it worked. Yeah, it did work. It didn't error any messages, and it actually logged us in with this user. Now, how do we know? Oh, actually, I should have saved the password. I'm actually going to reset the password again. I'm going to log out, reset password, hope for the email, and let me get the email, reset password. Let's put another one. I'm going to call this Jess at #123 wildcard. And I'm going to save this password now. Let's hope that it actually works and it logs in. It did log in because it is a strong password. Now let's come over here. Let's log out and let's try to log in with the new credentials. Actually, let's try to log in with the old ones just to show you guys that it actually changed. So I'm going to say at PedroTech.co, log in with the old one. So it was #123. This is what we were using before. It doesn't work. It gives us an error, as you can see. But if I put in the new password, it now logs us in as expected. So this is actually working all perfectly. Now, obviously, looking at it from a UI perspective, it does look a little bit ugly, but that's because I didn't want to add all the UI and styling to this video. Even some of the stuff like maybe showing a badge or your profile picture if you're logged in or not, or showing a message if you're logged in or not. I didn't add because I really wanted to just focus on those 3 different functionalities that I wanted to implement. And I think I did that in this video. So this is basically it for the video. You guys saw we built a lot of stuff that would normally take forever to do it in a secure way, but it was really quick because of Stytch. So if you're interested in checking out the code, it will all be in the description. The initial code, the new code, the final code will all be there. If you want to check out Stytch, the link for it will be in the description. Again, this is a sponsored video, but Stytch is indeed a platform that I really enjoy. And I think that anyone who's building any product that will be used by customers who need a secure service of authentication and don't want to spend a lot of your time dealing with it, using Stytch can be a really good alternative. So yeah, just check them out. Let them know that I sent you guys there. But yeah, that's basically it. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below and comment what you want to see next. Subscribe because I'm posting 2 times a week and I would massively appreciate it. And yeah, that's basically it. Really hope you guys enjoyed it and I see you guys next time.